So how was your trip to the underworld? Right? So we're going to recap book 11 of the Odyssey. Ooh, scary book. Very scary. So Odysseus and his men have traveled down to the underworld. Why again? Because Circe, the witch, the goddess that they've been living on her island for a year, she told Odysseus that, hey, you need to go talk to this blind prophet named Tiresias, right? And he's going to tell you a prophecy that you need to get home. But here's the rub. He's dead. You need to go talk to him in the underworld. So Odysseus, he packs up his men and he's like, come on, let's go, guys. And they go down to the underworld, and lo and behold, who does he find there? His crewmate, Elpenor. And what happened to Elpenor? Well, Elpenor got a little inebriated, a little drunk, and he went up to the roof of Circe's house and fell off of it. Yikes. Anyway, so Elpenor is real sad, and he says, you know what, Odysseus, I need you to go back to Circe's island, and I need you to give me the funeral rites, and hey, I need you to put an oar on the mound for me to symbolize this is my place, this is who I was. Oh, you gotta feel for Elpenor. And so that's who he first encounters whenever he gets to the underworld. Now, he encounters a lot of famous people. I'm talking legendary people. He encounters a whole bunch of famous women from Greek myths and a whole bunch of famous men, which we're going to get into as well. So the big people that I want you to remember are the following. Number one, his mom. Odysseus's mom shows up and he's like, Mom, what are you doing here? And she says, I was overcome with grief and I couldn't stand your absence anymore. Your dad moved to the country and he's a recluse now. Telemachus is a grown man and he's searching for you, Odysseus. And your wife, she's fending off all these suitors. You've got to get home, man. And he's like, how did you die, Mom? And she tells him that she just kind of gave up on life. Very sad, his mom. Yikes. And then he meets Tiresias, right? The guy that he went down to go see. Now, before all this, he had to do a certain thing to make sure that the spirits were at bay, right? And what did he do? He had to sacrifice a ram and a lamb, okay? And some translations say just a ram, some translations say just a sheep, but overall, he had to sacrifice a ram sheep. Okay. And so he does that and he has this like pit of blood. And so the spirits are coming and they're like, oh, give me the blood. Why do they want the blood? I don't know. It's weird. It's like a zombie movie. But anyway. And so I guess it's like the symbolic, they want the life that they once knew. And so the blood represents life. I don't know. Anyways, and so they all come pooling over to this blood and they want to drink the blood. And this is why this is the horror kind of section of the Odyssey. And here comes Tiresias. And so he fends all the spirits back. He says, don't drink from the blood. I need to talk to this guy. Tiresias comes up and he tells Odysseus, hey, if you want to get home, there's some dangers in your way. And don't eat the cattle that are on Helios's island. Big no. If you don't eat the cattle, you're home free. But if you eat the cattle, oh, I see destruction for you and your men. Yikes. All right, so then all these spirits come to drink this blood, and that's when he sees his mom, and that's when he sees famous Greek myths, and that's when Agamemnon, the king of the Greeks, comes up. And we learn a little bit about Agamemnon, the king of the Greeks, okay? Apparently he was poisoned by his wife, so that's great. And he tells Odysseus, hey, you can't trust women. You can't trust them. Don't give away all your secrets to the women. Because look what happened to me. But then he throws in, but I don't see that you're going to have any problem. Because your wife, Penelope, she's top notch. Good job there, Odysseus. Yeah. And so there's Agamemnon. There's his advice. And then we have Achilles. Okay. Now, if you know anything about Achilles is famous for what? his heel. Your Achilles heel is your weakness, right? And so your weakness, and why is that? Because Achilles, if you recall, his mother, who was a goddess, dipped him in the river Styx. And the river Styx is the river that leads down into the underworld. And what is the underworld exactly? Like, where are we in the underworld? What's going on? And so I'm going to put an image right here that shows you the map of the underworld. Basically, we have this river Styx, and then it leads to the gate. And who's guarding the gate? Cerberus, right? This three-headed dog. Really famous dog. So Cerberus guards the gate, and then there's some different sections, right? We're in Erebus, okay? And then there's Tartarus, where they punish the evil-doing people of the world. And then there's the Elysium Fields, where all the good people are, and they're like frolicking or whatever. So there are some different sections of the underworld, depending on how good or bad you were in life, okay? So Achilles comes up to him, and by the way, his mother dipped him in the river Styx, but didn't dip in the heel because you gotta hold the baby somehow, and that's what was mortal, is his heel, and he got stabbed with an arrow through the heel, and that's why today we call our weaknesses our Achilles heels. Crazy how Greek myths leak into our modern day. So anyway, we have Achilles, and he comes up and he's like, hey, how's everything going on land? How's my son? And Odysseus responds that his son is doing well. He was well known after the battle. He's a great warrior and all that jazz. And Achilles is actually kind of sad about his heroism during the Trojan War. He's talking about how he would rather plow a field than have been the hero of the war or whatnot, which is really sad when you think about it, because the Greeks are all about heroism and being like the strongest and the warrior type. So it's kind of sad that he would rather be a plowman, but I totally get that. I think I would rather do that than go to war too, but hey, that's just me. All right, so there we have book 11. And so Odysseus again meets all these famous people. He gets his prophecy from Tiresias, and then he's like, whoa, I gotta go, because all the spirits are crowding around and wanting all this blood from this pit. Great. And so he leaves, and he promises the spirits to go to Ithaca and sacrifice a certain something for them. So that's pretty nice of Odysseus. So then we are at book 12 here, okay? And things are going to get fun. All right, if you like Godzilla, if you like monster battles, get ready for this, because this is going to be epic. Okay, so in this book, they're going to go over to Circe's Island, because what do they have to do? They have to, do the funeral rites for Elpenor. Now, the Greeks took their funeral rites very, very seriously. They believe that once you died, your spirit comes out in a puff of air, if you will, and then they took processes to wash and clean the body. Usually women would do this, and then they would put the body in a high place and have a big funeral, essentially. They would walk your body through the streets and then put you in a high place to, do all that ceremonial, there we go, stuff. And they would place coins on your eyeballs. Why? Because that was like your fare for the river Styx. The person who rows the boat for the river Styx to get you into the underworld, to safe passage, you got to pay a fee for that. And so they would put coins on your eyes for that. All right. And then afterwards, they would cremate your body. And that would end the funeral rites, right? And they would usually memorialize you with pottery and sculptures if you were very, very important. That's why we see a lot of sculptures of people like Agamemnon and Achilles in Greece. Okay, so there's all that, and now we are at Circe's Island. She's going to give us some warnings about what's coming up. There are 3 main challenges in book 12. Scylla, the Sirens, and Charybdis, okay? And they're very hard to pronounce when you just read them on the page, so I wanted to say them out loud for you. So we got the Sirens, we've got Charybdis, and we've got Scylla. Now, I'm not going to give you any details. I want you to look at the descriptions very carefully and envision what they look like in your own mind, okay? Pay very close attention to those descriptions, all right? And the graphic novel is going to help you out a lot. Now, I do want to mention that I have this book, and it's called Gifts from the Greek Gods, or Gifts from the Gods, Ancient Words and Wisdom from Greek and Roman Mythology. This is written by Liz Lunge Larson and illustrated by Gareth Hines. And he's the same Gareth Hines that does our graphic novel. And so this is so fantastic. It goes through major, sayings that we say in modern day and how they have Greek ties. For example, where do we get the idea of fortune and fate and genius? Where do we get the idea of hypnotizing people? Well, there's a god for that. Even arachnids. The name arachnid comes from ancient Greece. So there is one about the sirens, and I am going to read that now. So we have siren, a device for making a loud, unusually wailing sound as a signal or a warning. All right, so that's usually what we use the word siren for, but where did it come from? So I have this right here. Whoa, they kind of look like angels a bit, but with weird chicken feet. The sirens were deities, minor goddesses, famous for their musical talents. They were half bird, half female creatures that sang in the most heavenly voices. Gods and mortals alike heaped praise on them, and sometimes happens, all that praise made them vain. What does vain mean? It means that you only care about yourself, and that you like to praise yourself, and, all that jazz. One day, while the sirens were visiting Mount Olympus, the muses put on an especially enchanting performance. Applauding enthusiastically, the gods declared the performance unsurpassable. Hera, his wife, Zeus's wife, you gotta love her, feeling impish, leaned over and whispered to the sirens, "If you challenge the muses to a singing competition, I am certain your voices will be declared superior." Feels like the gods get jealous a lot. I don't know. Fluffing their feathers with undisguised pride, the sirens did challenge the muses to a contest, and their singing was lovely indeed. Still, when the muses took the stage, their voices were so beautiful that the wind itself stopped to listen, and the gods immediately declared them the winners. Bummer. Then Zeus demanded that the sirens pluck enough feathers from their bodies for each muse to make a crown for herself. Oh, that's harsh. Enraged, the sirens fled and hid among the jagged rocks and sharp cliffs along the coast. In that forsaken and bitter landscape, their humiliation turned them into vengeful monsters. Instead of singing to create beauty, they began to use their bewitching voices to lure sailors to the shores where men were dashed to death on the treacherous cliffs. Fun. And so, even though the siren song was still beautiful, it began to signal danger. If anyone came close enough to hear the sirens, they should stay away. Yeah. And that is how we use the word siren to this very day. And so there's a picture of the sirens with the ship there. They lure the men to the ship. Foreshadowing for book 12. All right. Now here's the thing with the sirens is they are used even in modern day movies and pop culture. In the newest Black Panther movie, I'm not going to give away details if you haven't seen it, but the siren song is featured. All right, so to recap, book 12, you're going to see 3 monsters, the sirens, Scylla, and Charybdis. Pay attention to those descriptions. And then, of course, after that, we're going to see, will Odysseus's men and Odysseus heed the warning not to eat the cattle from Helios, the sun god's island? Will they or won't they? We will see. All right, let's find out.